Tonight, it's a new beginning in Warri Kingdom as the 21st Hunu of Warri, Ogiame Atuwase III, ascends the throne of his forefathers at the age of 37. Consultation still ongoing between the federal government and National Association of Resident Doctors. Both parties try to work out details of a new agreement. As the humanitarian crisis in Benue State worsens, Governor Samuel Otom asked international and local aid agencies to intensify their support. And the United States government warns citizens to avoid Kabul airport over security concerns.
And on business news tonight, CBN stops microfinance banks from engaging in forex transactions, restricts their activities to provision of financial services to retail clients.
And on sports news tonight, Team Nigeria has won 2 gold medals and 1 bronze on day 4 of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships in Nairobi, Kenya.
A new Hunu of Warri has been crowned in Warri, Delta State. He is Ogiame Atuwase III. He is the eldest son of the 19th Hunu of Warri. At the event, graced by dignitaries from all walks of life, the Hunu, in his first pronouncement, seeks a new beginning for his people and reverses a curse on his land. The 21st Hunu of Warri is one of the youngest to ascend the throne. Our correspondent Chris Elems has this report.
A mammoth crowd troops to the venue of the coronation of the 21st Hunu of Warri. In the Capacity Field Hall, the Warri Royal Choir, alongside Laze Kweme Orchestra, chant out beautiful tunes, waiting for the arrival of the Hunu designate. It's been 90 days of isolation for him in preparation for this day. He will have to fulfill all the traditional and cultural rites. Having ticked all the boxes, the Hunu designate, dressed in his full regalia, is ushered into the venue where he will be crowned the new traditional head of the Warri Kingdom.
Permit me to call Chief Gabriel Awala, the Hunu of Warri Kingdom, to come and do the traditional crowning ceremony.
And the Hunu ceases to be addressed as Shola Emiko.
His title is Atuwase III.
The Deputy Senate Leader, Senator Ovie Omoagege, who leads the federal government delegation to the event, presents President Muhammadu Buhari's goodwill message.
I am certain that as a monarch, with the traditional will to continue the noble 500-year tradition of this kingdom, your reign will witness improved peace, progress, and development of your people and the nation.
The Oni of Ife welcomes the new Olu to the National Council of Traditional Rulers and appeals for great leadership.
You have to embrace the entire kingdom of Warri people, extend the hand of fellowship to all and sundry.
You are God from beginning to the end. There's no place for argument. You are God all by yourself.
The time is now ripe for the Hunu of Warri Kingdom, Ogiame Atuwashi III, to speak on what he terms a new beginning for his people.
As the spiritual, cultural, political, and traditional ruler of this land, I, Ogiame Atuwashi III, the 21st Hunu of Warri, the first son of Olu Atuwashi II, the grandson and direct descendant of Olu Erejuwa II, who was offended on this throne, I hereby reverse the curse placed over this land. In its place, I release forgiveness and healing to the federal government of Nigeria, whose might was used to propagate that offense. And now, as the Shekiri is restored to its original identity as one of blessing, we decree, because the Shekiri is blessed, Nigeria is blessed.
With the coronation concluded, Ogiame Atuwashi III, who is the first son of the 19th king of the kingdom, becomes the 21st Hunu of Warri at the age of 37. Chris Illems, Channels Television News.
It's been a colorful royal event with tradition in display in the ancient kingdom of Warri, Delta State, a showcase of royal dignitaries and prominent Nigerians for the coronation ceremony, beginning with a boat regatta and other traditional performances. Now let's give you a background on the new Hunu of Warri.
Prince Shola Emiko was born on April 2, 1984, to Godwin Torisheju Emiko, who was crowned Ogiame Atuwashi II, the 19th Hunu of Warri, and Gladys Emiko. He attended NNPC Primary School in Warri and later Adesoye College of Kwara State for his secondary education between 1995 and 2001, before proceeding to Case Western Reserve University, Cleveland, Ohio, in the United States, where he bagged his Bachelor of Arts degree between 2002 and 2006, majoring in international studies and political science, while minoring in history and economics. In 2007, he earned a Master's of Science in Management, also from Case Western Reserve University. On returning to Nigeria in 2008, Prince Emiko served in the Public Affairs Department of the National Petroleum Investment Management Services for his NYSC. And from 2009 to 2010, he worked as an officer at the Shell Nigeria Closed Pension Fund Administrator, and later at Sahara Energy as a government relations officer between 2010 and 2012. A serial entrepreneur, Shola Emiko is the founder of Noble Nigeria and Coral Curator, while he chairs the board of several other companies. He succeeds his uncle, Ogiame Ikenwole, the 20th Hunu of Warri, who died at the age of 65 after reigning for 5 years.
From Delta, we head north to Kano State, where Alhaji Nasiru Ado Bayero has received the staff of office as the second emir of the new Binchi Emirate from the governor, Abdullahi Ganduje. The governor urged him and other emirs in the state to continue to assist government in providing security for lives and property. In another significant event in Delta State, the governor, Ifeanyi Okowa, and members of his family are celebrating the life and times of their father, Arthur Okoya. The Thanksgiving service which took place at the St. Michael's Anglican Church in Ika Northeast drew dignitaries, friends and well-wishers from across the country who joined the Okowa family as they rekindled the memory and legacy of their father.
Lord, lift up your name. St. Michael's Anglican Church, Owa-Alero, is the venue for the Thanksgiving service in honor of Pa Arthur Uzoma Okowa, father of the Governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa. Dignitaries at the occasion includes Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo, former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, several governors, and many other very important personalities. The celebration features readings and hymns in honor of late Pa Okowa for the repose of his soul. Archbishop Metropolitan and Primate of the Church of Nigerian Anglican Communion, Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba, in a sermon titled, "Seek ye the Lord with the Prevailing Faith," advised those in authority to put God first in all their actions.
If you want to ask me, how do you know the impact of Baba in our time, I will say, look at what he has left behind. Look at his sons and daughters. Look at the family. Indeed, the righteous shall remain a treasure to God's people.
The Vice President.
In his remarks, Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo encouraged everyone to live a life of service rather than focus on earthly possessions.
I think it is obvious that the inheritance that a good man leaves cannot be houses, money, or other forms of material wealth. In any event, there is no guarantee that material wealth can last generations. It must be something more enduring. Ultimately, it is a legacy of faith, of character, and selfless service to God and man.
While thanking his guest, the governor of Delta State described his father as one who lived a life of truth and discipline.
Our father lived a worthy life, and we thank God for his life. He was actually a teacher, and people around here know that he was known for discipline. And I thank God that that life that he lived imparted not only on my person, but upon all my siblings.
Late Pa Okowa was an astute teacher and a respected community leader who left a great legacy, one his children have been urged to preserve. He was aged 88, and he died on January 28, 2021, after a brief illness.
In part two, after the break, is the end of the road for a gun runner in Nasarawa State and for many others in Ogun State. That's in a moment. Join us again. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. It's a new beginning in Warri Kingdom as the 21st Hunu of Warri, Ogiame Otuwase III, ascends the throne of his forefathers at the age of 37. Consultation still ongoing between the federal government and National Association of Resident Doctors. Both parties try to work out details of a new agreement. As the humanitarian crisis in Benue State worsens, Governor Samuel Otom asked international and local aid agencies to intensify their support. A United States government warns citizens to avoid Kabul airport over security fears. It appears the federal government and resident doctors are still locked in negotiation over the terms of a new agreement being worked out by both parties. A resumed session, which was slated for 10 this morning, did not begin until about 4:30 p.m. In his opening remarks, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, reiterated that all issues in contention have been discussed and agreed upon, adding that the 4.8 billion naira provided in the 2021 supplementary budget has been gotten from the central bank and sent to the budget office for processing. But the striking doctors are still not satisfied with the memorandum of action printed by the government for their signatures. Journalists were excused from the meeting later on. The Benue State Government has appealed to local and international aid agencies not to relent in their intervention in the ongoing aid crisis created by persistent attacks by suspected herdsmen. This was mentioned at the Jagbimba camp during the flag-off of a 10-day free medical outreach. Represented by his wife, Mrs. Eunice Otom, the governor says the latest attacks is increasing the number of IDPs in the state.
Farmers who fled from attacks from suspected herdsmen in rural communities along the Benue-Nasarawa boundary are the latest guests at Bajimba camp for internally displaced persons. The camp has over 33,700 inhabitants, including 4,000 new arrivals. And the wife of the Benue State Governor is in the camp to flag off this medical outreach.
I wish to call on partners to support the implementation of these outreaches across other camps, even so more IDPs will benefit. The gap remains huge. We have already been informed that we have about 1,500,000 IDPs already. If we are to take more records, we will have over 2 million IDPs. And it only shows how very intense the situation is.
The comprehensive medical outreach, which will last for the next 10 days, covers diagnosis, consultation with doctors, and even surgeries.
His Excellency informed me that he will mobilize me in a matter of a few days to bring a food intervention for this camp also.
Amidst the health challenges, the IDPs are delighted to be benefiting from the exercise.
I'm happy too, because I don't expect that such a thing will come to with the IDP at the camp.
Any operation now is not less than 50,000 naira. But these people, you know, they cannot afford that. So the governor and his wife, Dr. Mrs. Eunice Otom, and the Benue State government, they felt that this will go a long way to help these IDPs.
After consultation, these drugs worth millions of naira have been provided to care for the IDP treatment and recovery process, as some of them have major health issues like hernia, cataracts, and malaria.
The situation with internally displaced persons in Benue State is not any better, but interestingly, women are discovering new ways to earn money to support themselves and their families. They have gone through training, which has equipped them to begin the production of Zana caps to meet the rising demand for the item in Benue State.
These conflict-affected women in Benue State are changing the narrative that poverty wears a female face. They live in the Teachers Village IDP camp, where they have found a safe space for their craft. In spite of their displacement, they remain resilient and self-reliant. Most Borno women have always had the Zana cap weaving skill. What used to be a pastime before the conflict is now a lifeline. Through their community, they find a market for their craft, supplementing whatever supplies they receive from aid agencies.
So idan a cikin mako wanda muka ganshi ko bai da bai fito yana dinka hula za mu ce me ya faru za mu je mu duba shi lafiya ne ko ba lafiya ba kuma sannan idan har bai da kuɗin da zai hada shi wannan kayan zaren mu muna iya hadawa mu siya mai saboda karya zona banza sai mu bashi dinka.
Usually, the cap goes through at least 6 stages in the production chain. From the colorful designing, meticulously created by a cap artist on a paper, interpreted on a plain piece of cloth by another specialist, on which the women begin to weave. For the finishing stage, the 4th person in the production chain sews on the cover, while another expert helms it, and the 6th person puts a cotton lining inside. The cap market is an open space along Damboa Road in the capital city, occupied by mostly displaced men from Bama local government.
Muka tashi akwai wanda ya zo sirara alhamdulillah don akwai muna da yanwa daya da biyu kuma musulmi yan uwan mu su ma sun taimaka mana.
All classes and category of Zana caps are sold here. Clients can order their Zana caps on a budget as there is a cap for everyone.
Ni da nake magana na akwai customer nan da yake China zan yi yanka masa Abuja sai a aika mishi har China zai je.
The Zana cap making industry extends to a cap laundry service group. There are 986 members according to officials making a living from cap laundry, mostly operating from their homes or makeshift roadside sheds.
Fesawa daban mai shanyewa daban mai bugbugawa ma daban duka akwai masu aikin shi.
The Kanuris of Borno State have a cap-wearing culture that dates back to 1,700 years ago. The Zana cap is named after a First Republic parliamentarian, Alhaji Zana Bukar Dipcharima, whose idea it was to use threads of different colors to knit caps as against the ancient style of using inks that easily wash off. What sets the Zana cap weaving in Borno apart from that of other towns?
If you buy a cap in Abuja now, see my nails. If you do like this, the thread will come out. It will begin to break. But in this case, you can even bring a nail and do this. Nothing will happen to the cap because you have to make sure that it is knit properly.
The Borno State Government last year disbursed 35.2 million naira loan among 704 persons in the cap-making industry as part of efforts to boost small businesses and stimulate the local economy. The women may be forced to live in camps because of the conflict, but their handwork is showcasing a beautiful side of Borno overshadowed by the conflict.
Encouraging entrepreneurship and creating avenues for capacity building amongst IDPs is definitely a way to go. And to take the conversation even further tonight, we have the manager, Humanitarian and Resilience Programs, Action Aid Nigeria, Mr. David Habe. A pleasure coming on the news at 10 tonight.
Thank you, Melinda.
Now, despite the harsh situation in the Borno IDP camp, the women there are discovering new ways to earn a living. And that's a good sign of resilience, isn't it?
Definitely. You know, a crisis such as what you have in the Northeast is inherently a crisis, a development challenge crisis. So anywhere you find crisis, violent humanitarian emergencies arising from violence or civil wars of those kinds, you are dealing with a developmental challenge. And at the bedrock of this, you talk about the issues of poverty, you talk about the issues of lack of education and the likes. So for the people of Borno who are building themselves and adapting to the situation that they find themselves in, it's a beautiful thing because most times they do not have a livelihood. They cannot go out to the markets as they used to. They are in camps, they are in garrison towns, and so they are getting engaged and using their skills, the tradition that they have learnt and had over the years to improve themselves, and it's a beautiful thing that they are able to get support from government, from non-governmental organizations to better their lives.
So you agree that it's a good thing to sustain this sort of initiatives?
Definitely, I would advise every Nigerian to get a cap from Borno, because you just get the best caps from Borno. But beyond getting the best cap from Borno, you know, this is about supporting those who are low and challenged at this time. You have women who have lost all of their livelihoods. They have been displaced. They're now living in garrison towns or in IDP camps. They do not have means to take care of their needs, and this has come as a lifeline. It's like having a hobby, and a hobby emerges as something that helps you to take control of your life and become better.
And talking about support, what can organizations such as Action Aid and even the government do in this regard?
You see, the crisis has lasted for over 10 years. And in these 10 years, a lot has happened. We have come from different phases of the crisis when people needed emergency food. We still need emergency food for a lot of people. There are people who needed emergency health care and the likes when people were displaced. Now, some people have been in IDP camps for over 10 years. So there is the need, people are developing a coping mechanism, and that is one of the things you see with the CAPs. Organizations have also developed ways to support the resilience building of people who have been affected. And I'll give you an example. Many organizations such as Action Aid, who provide support to IDPs, are now buying from the IDPs. So if you have to distribute, for instance, say, a dignity kit that includes soap, includes a hijab, you engage and train the IDPs to be able to make these materials by themselves and include in the kit so that they are able to raise an income from that. Beyond that, IDPs are also supporting and creating access to market. And I can only call for the government and other philanthropic individuals to come in and also support in this drive.
I like how you coined it, the coping initiative. So can anything go wrong with a program such as this?
Yes, certainly anything that can be right can also be wrong. People can take advantage of people at this time. And, you know, because they do not have, you can see people do not have enough, they do not have, they are low, they are down, so people can price them out. People can also get them to engage in illicit trades and the likes. But definitely things can go wrong. And that is why we have different support groups, clusters that are working to see that the protection of the rights of people who are displaced and living in camps are protected. The government is also doing a lot. The government has set up an agency that is supporting the coordination of humanitarian and sustainable development issues. And there's a long way to go, but we're getting there.
Mr. David Habe, a pleasure sharing your thoughts with us on the News at 10.
Thank you, Melinda.
The security issues now. It's the end of the road for two suspected kidnappers shot by the police in Ogun State while searching for bandits terrorizing the state. According to the police command, the operation followed intelligence that hoodlums, as about 6 of them, were sighted in the forest, allegedly waiting and looking for those to kidnap. On sighting the police, the hoodlums opened fire, but the force responded appropriately, recovering 2 AK-47 rifles and 5 rounds of ammunition. While in Nasarawa State, the police has arrested a suspected criminal who has been on the wanted list of the command for many years now, for offences ranging from armed robbery to kidnapping. A detachment of security operatives attached to Akangwa Division were deployed after the suspect, Litiga Abubakar, with 35 years, was sighted at the junction, which is called the Lushi Junction in Akwanga local government area. In the process, 53 empty magazines, 260 rounds of live ammunition, and 38,500 naira cash were discovered on him, and he was transferred to the state CID Lafia for thorough investigation. When the news at 10 returns, it's already 20 years of GSM operation in Nigeria. The telecommunications industry has injected at least $68 billion into the Nigerian economy. We'll bring you details of that in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back. After 6 weeks of being away from the school premises and attending classes online, students of the University of Lagos have now been recalled to take their second semester examination from August the 26th. The students had been asked to leave their halls of residence on July the 12th after an outbreak of COVID-19 occurred within the premises. They resume on Thursday for their exams only and not for lectures.
An almost empty premises of the University of Lagos with only a few students trickling in. After a COVID-19 scare 6 weeks ago, students were asked to vacate their halls of residence to checkmate the spread of the virus, and classes commenced online via the university's learning management system. Now we see just a few students around to read or see some lecturers. Some wearing their masks, while some are not. In a release statement on Wednesday, the university leadership says it has approved the commencement of the second semester examinations to hold physically from Thursday, August the 26th, 2021.
We are not reopening to bring the students, all the students back to campus from lectures. We have decided that we are going to have lectures all online so that to prevent reoccurrence. So that's why we are thinking that we should reopen for examination only.
The statement also states that arrangements have been made for the students to move into the hostels. We tried to visit one of the hostels to see steps being taken to ensure safety protocols are in place, but we were not allowed in. However, we did get reactions from the students about the latest developments.
The school have putting the right protocols for us that we should wear nose masks when coming in and going out of hostels.
They are actually enforcing it, but not everybody will abide to the rules.
The university management speaks on the preparations made so far.
We are bringing the students to come to school in batches. To be able to accommodate the whole student, we don't have enough accommodation to put everybody in such a way that we'll be able to have COVID compliant.
Meanwhile, there were mixed reactions on the effectiveness of online classes.
So far so good. The online classes have been effective. Lecturers have tried as much as possible to make students understand what we have been taught.
Sometimes the online class, sometimes it's the network issues and everything, the data and everything. I don't feel confident like that.
From Thursday, August the 26th, the Unilag school premises will see an influx of students coming in to write their exams. The university is given assurances of safety of staff and students, with special arrangements made with the Lagos University Teaching Hospital and Bagada General Hospital should any incidents of COVID-19 arise.
To politics now. A chieftain of the People's Democratic Party and former Minister of Information, Professor Gana, says the current status of corruption in Nigeria is 1,000 times worse than it was before 2015, when the All Progressive Congress took over the central government from the PDP. Professor Gana made the disclosure at a meeting of the Kogi State PDP stakeholders in the nation's capital, Abuja, where he notes that the current state of corruption in the country has made the PDP's 16 years in government a righteous one. The PDP chieftain urges members to re-strategize and ensure they take over power at the center in 2023.
Small group. The Federal Republic of Nigeria
is facing a very serious challenge that if we don't rise as a people to provide answers by taking over power and giving it a sense of direction, as we did in 1998-99, and for 16 years was really governing this country, restoring good governance, development, and so on. If we don't do that before our very eyes, things may just scatter. I've never seen the level of corruption in Nigeria, the level of corruption. I think they've now made the PDP government as angels. Now it is 1,000 times worse. The currency is now almost 100%, devalued. More than that. It's terrible. Therefore, the misery index in Nigeria is the highest in Africa. We are the most miserable set of people now in Africa. I think the PDP at the national level is the only hope as of now for the Federal Republic of Nigeria to get back to sanity. Therefore, the Central Party must also be helped to work and move together so that we can, by the grace of God, also take over the federal power in 2023. We can do it, and it must be done.
Introduced into the Nigeria telecommunications sector in 2001, the global system for mobile telecommunications, popularly known as GSM, has existed for 20 years in the country. When the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, licensed the first two mobile networks in 2001, not many would have imagined exactly how the innovation will impact the lives of citizens. Our next report takes a look at GSM operations in the country 2 decades after, and how the revolution has impacted the nation's socio-economic development.
On the streets of some major cities in Nigeria lie these abandoned relics of a nation's telecommunication system. These phone booths and their landlines were key features in many cities in Nigeria before the advent of mobile telephones. Nigeria's telecommunications sector was fully deregulated in 2001. Prior to this period, the country had approximately 450,000 telephone lines provided by the Nigerian Telecommunications Limited, NITEL. At that time, owning a landline or seen making a phone call from a public phone booth was a symbol of status, an experience that is now history.
This line before, if you know of, they say at that time that poor man is not, you can't use phone. That time if you want to make line, you will line up for, you can stay more than 30 minutes, 40, even 2 hours, fighting here and there, up and down.
The liberalization of the sector ushered in a set of GSM operators. Not many people envisaged the effects that the revolution would have on the livelihoods of citizens. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the sector contributed 10.6% to the country's GDP in the fourth quarter of 2019 and 12.45% by the fourth quarter of 2020. The sector also boosted over $68 billion in investments as at 2019, providing millions of direct and indirect jobs to citizens. The impacts of this sector on the economy is truly undeniable.
Today our banks are on our mobile phones, and it has simplified most of our activities, engagements, communications, transactions, and payments as well.
It has enhanced businesses. It has also created a lot of job opportunities.
Nigeria is the largest mobile telecommunications market in Africa, having over 184 million mobile lines, with 126 million of those lines connected to internet services. However, 4G coverage is only available to 37% of the population, who are mainly in the cities.
We have developed the national policy on 5G deployment in Nigeria, and National Frequency Management Council has been discussing the release of spectrum to NCC for the deployment of 5G. So now we are on track.
Given the current place of information and communication technology in the global economy, Nigeria cannot afford to lag behind in widening the application of broadband technology to grow her economy.
Global Financial Integrity has ranked Nigeria 5th out of 26 countries with the most politically exposed persons involved in real estate money laundering. The report, conducted for the period of 5 years, that's 2015 to 2020, shows that about $2.3 billion was laundered in 56 cases traced to the United States of America. In this next report, our business correspondent, Ini John Mekwa, explains how this works.
With a housing gap of about 17 million in Nigeria, the real estate sector has become one of the attractions for investment with prospects of long-term revenue and profit. Individuals with funds are almost assured of good returns once construction of a house either in an estate or separately is completed, and even better if it's located in a developed area with basic infrastructure. The boom in the sector has attracted illegal funds, according to Global Financial Integrity. One safe haven seemed to be the real estate industry in the United States.
80% of the money that is used in real estate money laundering in the US is not from within the US. It comes from outside the US. So they're all foreign sources of money. And we were able to identify 26 countries. When you start looking at people who have used political money or money that is meant to actually go to the government, to the resources of people in their home countries, for that kind of money laundering, and which is money which is being put into real estate, Nigeria was in the top 5.
With the report focusing on politically exposed persons, the cost of Nigeria being in the top 5 out of 26 countries is that funds which could have been spent on developing social amenities have been spent on housing which are valued millions of dollars. However, the loss is not only to Nigerians. Citizens of the United States are also feeling the adverse effects.
There are concerns that when so much corrupt and criminal money is coming into the US, it also means that it is making housing unaffordable to everyday Americans.
A further finding indicates that laundering may not be limited to politically exposed persons in Nigeria. Forensic expert Emmanuel Olomu paints the picture of how the transactions may be carried out.
10 million, for example, it may tell the owner of the property, the person that want to sell to the vendor. They arrange with the vendor will just write maybe, for example, 1 million on the receipt, but you go and pay them through another means. The criminal may obtain loan, pretend that you want to use the loan to acquire the property. So after he might have acquired the property, the loan, he will use the proceeds from the illegal activity to pay the loan back, and then later he will now resell the property.
I might not be able to go into the personal affairs of my clients.
A player in the industry, the Chief Executive Officer of White Rose Nigeria Limited, Shakirat Ayobami, acknowledges the possibility of such transactions, but says that crime-fighting agencies have more work to do.
If the government agency finds out that the fund is not clean, they can seize whatever the person used that funds to purchase.
While Global Financial Integrity believes that dealing with laundering through real estate requires a cross-border solution, Mr. Lomu proposes that in Nigeria, cash transactions should be discouraged and data collation should be improved upon. Ini John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
The former military administrator of Oyo and Ekiti State, General Adetunjo Lui, has died at the age of 76 at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital after a brief illness. He was the General Staff 1 Operations, Army Headquarters, Lagos, between 1980 to 1982. Then the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, Jos Plateau State, where he went to in 1989. He served as the field commander of ECOMOG peacekeeping force in Liberia between 1992 to 1993. Now let's find out what's happening in the world of business. Laddie Williams is standing by with the details.
Thanks, Melinda. On business news, the central bank has directed microfinance banks in the country to stop their engagement in wholesale backing and foreign exchange transactions. A statement from the financial market regulator explains that due to the comparatively low capitalization of MFBs, dealing in wholesale and or foreign exchange transactions are significant risk with dire consequences for the financial system stability. Meanwhile, the CBN mentions that MFBs are to primarily focus on providing financial services to retail and micro clients, with 500,000 naira limit per transaction for Tier 2 unit and MFBs with Tier 2 units, MFBs with 1 million naira for other categories. In its Monetary Policy Committee meeting last month, the CBN announced the ban on sale of foreign exchange to BDC operators in the country. Meanwhile, the total turnover of foreign exchange transactions carried out at the FX spot towards the futures markets last week fell by 22.11% to $539.47 million as of August the 20th. According to latest report from the FMDQ exchange, the total value of forex traded at the investors and exporters window of the market also dropped by 24.56% in contrast to last week's transaction to close at $415.05 million. At the same time, the weekly average rate for the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange fell slightly by 0.01% to 411 naira 23 kobo against the dollar compared to 411 naira 17 kobo recorded in the previous week. Similarly, the naira dropped marginally against the dollar by 1.02% week on week to 510 naira 60 kobo against the dollar at the parallel market. And the domestic stock market ended the second week of August negative, down by 0.1%, following a struggle between profit-taking and bargain hunting within the 5 trading sessions. The loss, which translates to about 20.45 billion naira, came amid sell pressure on 33 equities from 4 key sectors of the equities listed on the NGX, particularly the consumer goods sector, which dipped by 6.31%. Performance on the activity chart of equities was also negative when compared to last week's trading, as a total of 866.54 million shares change hands for 12.25 billion naira in over 17,200 deals. However, price performance was positive with 36 gainers led by Honeywell against 33 losers led by Maya, while the trio of Honeywell, Transcore and Guarantee Trust Holding Company were major contributors to the total volume of shares traded. Meanwhile, activities at the unlisted securities market also ended the week in the red, as both the NASD OTC Security Index and market capitalization closed with a 1.25% decline. At the same time, the investors at the securities market lost 8.08 billion naira in value this week as a result of negative movement in prices. There was also a 23.67% decrease in the total value traded during the week, which currently stands at 201.72 billion naira. Overall, volume of the securities traded during the week was lower by 70.93% at 11.02 million units. And that's business news. Back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Laddie. The first matriculation ceremony of Thomas Adetunjo University in Kwara State has been held with a resolve to make it one of the shining institutions in the country with a focus on entrepreneurship. Now, the founder of the institution, Mr. Johnson Adetunjo, laments how most graduates in the country are unemployable and has assured Nigerians that the institution is ready to correct the situation. Now let's find out what's happening in the world of sports. Kayode Alanyode is standing by.
Hello and welcome to Sports News. Team Nigeria has added 3 more medals to its haul at the World Athletics Under-20 Championships in Nairobi, Kenya. Chudi Onwuzurike sets a new national record of 20.21 seconds to win gold in the men's 200 meters. Imabong Nse Uko earned Nigeria's second gold medal of the day after posting a personal best of 51.55 seconds to win the women's 400 meters. In the women's 200 meters, Favor Ofili clinched bronze in the time of 22.23 seconds. Nigeria has now won 3 gold and 2 bronze medals at the competition. Meanwhile, for the first time ever, athletes competing at the World Juniors will be given cash rewards as the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, announced cash awards for all medalists. The rewards will see athletes receiving $5,000 for gold, $3,000 for silver, and $2,000 for a bronze medal. Nigeria is currently third on the medals table behind host Kenya and Finland with 5 medals and could add more on the final day, having qualified for the finals of the 4x100 meters men and women, 4x400 meters men and women, 400 men's hurdles and women's long jump. Moving on to Tokyo now, where the Paralympic organizers have announced the withdrawal of 4 national Paralympic committees from the next week's game. The affected national Paralympic committees include Samoa, Kiribati, Vanuatu, and Tonga, and they have cited difficulties and financial burdens caused by the pandemic travel and quarantine measures.
Number of nations from Oceania, the Pacific Islands, who have been unable to travel. The reason why they can't travel is they would need to travel through from their country through Australia, where there's strict rules at the moment, where they would have to quarantine at their expense for 2 weeks before flying here, and they would then need to quarantine on the way back. So effectively, they would need to pay for 4 weeks extra in a hotel. And these are tiny national Paralympic committees, and they just do not have the resources to be able to accommodate that type of expense. So sadly, they've needed to withdraw.
In the English Premier League, Liverpool maintained their perfect start to the season with a 2-0 win over Burnley at Anfield, with Diogo Jota and Sadio Mane on the score sheet. Reigning champions Manchester City put up a 5-star performance against Norwich City, with Jack Grealish scoring on his home debut. Rafinha came to Leeds' rescue with a superb curling finish to secure a point against Everton in the club's first home game with a full stadium in 17 years. Danny Ings scored a superb volley on his Aston Villa home debut as they recorded a deserved victory over Newcastle United, while Watford lost at Brighton 2-0. And that'll be all in sports news. Back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Coyote. On the international scene, the United States has advised Americans in Afghanistan to avoid traveling to Kabul airport due to potential security threats there. The United States Embassy advisory asked people to wait for individual instructions from a U.S. government representative. The advice comes as thousands try to escape from Afghanistan, especially going through the airport following the Taliban takeover.
Six days after the Taliban took back power in Afghanistan, the flow of people trying to flee continues to overwhelm Kabul, resulting in scenes like this. Earlier, the U.S. advised citizens not to travel to the airport, warning of possible security threats at the gates. The Pentagon says the U.S. has evacuated 17,000 people so far, including 2,500 American citizens. Taliban leaders have denied responsibility for the disorder at the airport and says the West could have had a better plan to evacuate. At least 12 people have been killed in and around the airport since Sunday, August the 15th. Meanwhile, the group's co-founder, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, is in Kabul for talks on establishing a new government. He's the most senior Taliban leader now in the country. Taliban officials say they will not make any announcements about the upcoming government until after the August 31st U.S. withdrawal date passes. As the Taliban continues talks on forming its government, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen wants that the current conversations being held to secure the exit of as many Afghan refugees as possible does not mean the bloc is prepared to recognize the new regime.
I think it's very important to differentiate between two things. Of course, we do have operational contacts with the Taliban at the moment, being in the moment of crisis, because we need, for example, to discuss in these difficult times how we can facilitate it for people in Kabul to come towards the airport, and you know how difficult that is. In those cases, of course, operational contacts are needed, and it's always good to speak if you can save lives. But this is completely distinct and separated from political talks. There are no political talks with the Taliban. There is no recognition of the Taliban.
Meanwhile, Greece has constructed a border fence on its border with Turkey to prevent possible crossings by Afghans fleeing the Taliban. The Taliban's sweep in advance last week has sparked fears that Europe could face a migration crisis similar to that in 2015.
Just before we go, news just reaching us indicates that members of the Association of Resident Doctors have declined signing the new Memorandum of Understanding over a new clause disclosed, which they insist on consulting with their members before appending their signatures. You get details of that and other stories on our website, channelstv.com. And the main news again. It was a new beginning for the people of Warri Kingdom as the 21st Hunu of Warri, Ogiame Etuwase III, ascended the throne of his forefathers at the age of 37. We'll now leave you with sights and sounds of the coronation of the 21st Hunu of Warri. That's the news at 10 tonight. I'm Melinda Akinlami.